Welcome to the Show. We are two geeks who talk about everything. My name is Aaron, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Landon.
Good day. Back at it again.
How's your week been, man?
Pretty good. I had a busy week with work, but I had some fun things that I got to do here and there. I caught up on my Last of Us episodes. That was nice. I got to watch the first episode of the latest and final season of Picard, which I loved. There's a lot of cool things going on. Binge watching Walking Dead from start to finish now that it's over again. What about you?
I did also catch the first episode of Picard, and I'm also caught up on The Last of Us up until, of course, we are recording this on a Sunday evening. So tonight's
I haven't
episode,
watched tonight's. Yeah,
I'll have to catch that tomorrow. But Picard, that season premiere was just fantastic, guys. If you guys are Star Trek Next Generation fans, this is the season of television you've been waiting 20 years for.
Oh my God.
At least the first episode started out strong right out the gate. I'm hoping that the rest of the season
right out the gate, like Gates McFadden. Whether that was intentional or not,
it was not.
It's good. Right out the gate.
I'm so funny. All right. Well, so if you are seeing or hearing this episode around the time that it is initially released, then you likely know that this past weekend saw the release of the most recent movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That is what we will be getting into this week, starting with some general spoiler-free thoughts. And then, when we get into the spoilers, we'll give you ample warning in case you haven't seen the movie yet, so you can scurry along and then come back. Along with our spoilery thoughts, we'll probably take some time to speculate about what the events of this movie could mean for the MCU at large moving forward. Okay, so like the previous two Ant-Man films, this one was also directed by Peyton Reed. It sees the return of stars Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, aka the Ant-Man, Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne, aka the Wasp, Michael Douglas as Hank Pym, aka the original Ant-Man, and Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne, aka the original Wasp. In this third installment, the cast is also joined by Catherine Newton as an aged up Cassie Lang, along with the big bad of phases 5 and 6, Kang the Conqueror himself, brought to the big screen by the incomparable Jonathan Majors. There are a few other fresh faces that join the cast, as well as some other familiar faces that are missing this time around. But we'll get into all that when we start talking spoilers. It has a running time of 2 hours and 4 minutes. Well worth it. Quantumania is said to have generated more than $225 million at the box office in its opening weekend. Landon, what are your initial spoiler-free thoughts?
When I came into it, I was already pretty excited about seeing it, and I, got my tickets ahead of time to watch it on Saturday of the opening, fully expecting a packed theater. And I thought to myself, we're going to have to get my family of 4. We're going to have to get there early, 30 minutes early. We're going to stand in the line, and then we're going to go get those mid seats that we always want to get. All right. So there we go. And we get there, and there's like nobody in the theater. There was nobody there. And then a couple came in, and then the guy's like, says to me, I'm a fan of all these movies. I don't understand why people don't like this movie. And I'm like, people don't like this movie? What do you mean? And I'm like, no, don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. I don't believe. He says, critics. And I said, I don't listen to those critics anyway. But
Rotten Tomatoes crap.
Right. So, but I went into it with full excitement about it. And I have to say, I was not disappointed. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm telling you, not only did I like it, but my wife, my son, and my daughter liked it. We laughed heartily, and we are super pumped about these next phases.
Very good.
Sure?
So you saw it in the evening, though, right? Like it was a Saturday night.
Yeah, it was Saturday about 7:00.
Yeah, so that's the kind of showing on a weekend that should be packed on an opening weekend.
Right. I do live on an island, though, so
Well, okay, but still, there's a population there, and that population most likely likes Marvel movies. I mean, who right? I mean, this is America.
You would think. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why there was not a whole lot of people at the theater. I know that we probably had a total of maybe at the end by the time this movie started, maybe 12 people in the theater,
Oh
including
wow,
us. And so
that's
that was it.
that's really pathetic.
That was horribly pathetic. But tell
No
me,
offense or
Aaron,
anything.
did you like it?
Yes, I did. There weren't many people who saw it at my theater, but I went to an 11 a.m. showing on Saturday. Um, and so, typically I like to do that because I don't like big crowds. And usually when you go to an early show on the weekend like that, there's not many people.
Yeah.
I would say our at least the cinema, showing room that I saw it in was maybe a third of the way full.
Okay.
So it wasn't bad.
Quick correction there. I actually saw it at 5:30, not
Oh,
7. So I don't
that
know.
makes a
Maybe
big difference. That's dinner time.
it was dinner time. Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
No, I honestly, I still feel like you should have had more than 12 people there.
I would have thought so.
So as for my thoughts on it, I really enjoyed it. I don't understand the Rotten Tomatoes part of it. Well, in part I do. I get why critics do what they do, because they have like a checklist. They're going in there. They're not looking to be entertained by something. They are looking for very specific things that they are able to grade
They're
on
grading it.
right
Yeah.
on a 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 scale, and or whatever their newspaper wants, or website or blog or wherever they report to. So I almost get why some critics will poo-poo on something just because they can.
I do have theories I want to expand on when we get into the spoiler territory as to why I think well, I don't it doesn't have to be spoiler territory really, but I think that there's a lot of people that aren't looking at these movies. They're looking for each getting bigger and better. And when you compare anything to the crescendo that ended up in Endgame, and then you're looking for something greater than that at this level, it's like, meh. So if people are looking for that, I don't know that it's going to be possible. You have to look at these movies. I mean, I think about character arcs, and I think about the growth of from Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man, the second movie, and then now this one. I see a progression in all characters. I see no huge jumps that were unrealistic to the character. I loved what they did with Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, there was just, aside from the Kang part, even introducing Kang, just the Ant-Man family, I felt like it did a great job,
Yeah.
with all that. So
Yeah. So now if you go on Rotten Tomatoes and look, you'll see that there's a very big gap between the critic score and the audience score. The audience score, I think, is in the 80s at this point.
oh yeah, okay.
And the critic score is in the 40s somewhere. I don't know. I should have looked before we got on here, but overall, I think that I really enjoyed it. I was very entertained. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think it was the best. Like, if we're taking the Ant-Man movies as a trilogy,
Yeah,
I'm not going to say I think it's the best one in the trilogy.
I like
That
the
one,
first one the best.
yeah, I think I have to go back to the first one.
That's so
Because
good.
again, like for me with Guardians of the Galaxy, it was
Same.
such a surprise.
Yeah,
You go
yeah.
into this movie and it's like, who's Ant-Man?
I
And
know. I
and
know.
so, like, you go into it, and there were a lot of quirks to that first movie that
Right,
that you didn't see in other Marvel movies. It was
right.
very set apart as I mean, it was a heist movie for one, and it was a very comedic heist movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas, yes, you've got comedic elements in every Marvel movie, sure,
Right.
but it was very different because here you've cast Paul Rudd as your lead,
Okay.
and he is very well known as a comedic lead, and so this is more of a comedy than an action superhero movie
Yeah,
than what we
yeah.
expect. Whereas, now we've gotten to the third one. He has outlived, Avengers Endgame. He's been through the blip and everything, and has missed, years of his daughter's life. So things are a little more serious for him these days.
Right.
So I feel like this movie overall has a much more serious tone, but it's still at its heart an Ant-Man movie with
Right.
a lot of that same comedic sentimentality to it. Again, so back to the Guardians of the Galaxy of it, I almost felt like this was a Guardians of the Galaxy style movie,
Yeah.
just with all of the visuals that we got.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're bringing us into this world that we'd never really explored before.
Right.
And so
Well, our perspective, they also blew the top off too, because like our perspective before, and even talking about the quantum realm, was like you're going down there and you're completely alone. I mean, there's nothing
right,
else down there. And then
right,
even with Michelle Pfeiffer, when we come to meet her, it's as if she's been down there for 30 years alone. And so, you can see, without, again, it's not spoiling anything because you can see it in the preview, but they're very much not alone. There's a whole universe down there,
yeah. There's a society. There's
society, yeah,
yeah.
and an
So
empire and a Darth Vader,
yeah,
and all
it's there was the society
the Lord
before,
Helmet.
and then like all of these things. Yeah. So it's crazy to think about that. So I also want to touch on some of these players I really want to get to. Jonathan Majors killed it as Kang. First of all, I can't wait to see more of him moving forward. I loved the father and daughter dynamic between Scott and Cassie. I thought that was like the heart of the movie.
Yeah, me too.
It was incredible. Michelle Pfeiffer, like you said, did a great job. I agree. I think she had a lot of heavy lifting with the exposition this time around, but she did a great job with it. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like sit down, kids. We're going to tell you a story so that you'll understand what the quantum realm is.
Right.
Now, something I was disappointed about, Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly, I feel like kind of got pushed to the side.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, they still had major roles, but when we're talking about the amount of lines and things like, but we also had a challenge with time. So you're looking at something like Michelle Pfeiffer's role and how much dialogue she had in all the different ways she did. I mean, pretty much what else were you going to do? I mean, I think it was pretty hard to have either character do anything more than they did.
I think it was rough for as a moviegoer. I feel like it was hard to watch it and imagine, Evangeline Lilly coming in here as the Wasp. She's a title character,
Right.
and yet, I mean, she really doesn't play a huge role until like the very end.
Till the very end, right?
And it's just like, okay,
it's a pretty important role, though.
good to see you there, Hope. Glad you got come on this adventure. But yeah, ultimately, I liked the movie a lot. I felt like it was a much stronger offering than a lot of what we got throughout Phase 4.
Yeah.
And like I said, I really am particularly excited to see more of Kang as that character is developed in future installments.
So let's talk for a second before we kind of dive into the movie a little bit more about where we are at in the Marvel universe, because I think a lot of people get lost in the phases that we're in, especially now that there have been series and television shows.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think it's good for us to talk for a second about Kang and our only exposure thus far to Kang, which some people may not have seen. They may not have watched Loki, where Loki is the series that's on Disney Plus, pretty much ends up with a Kang variant character, or however you want to say it, that's been holding the multiverse at bay.
Right.
And this spoiler alert for Loki, this is pretty much where that character that has been holding the multiverse together is now no longer doing that. And so now the multiverse and all of the different Kangs, and Kang is a scientist, and he pretty much is there's thousands of different versions of him, and in all cases they all are like a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
And this story zeroes in on one of those kings.
Right.
So should we do like why don't you say a little bit about the phases and where we're at from a phase standpoint?
So Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania officially kicks off phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So the last anything we got from phase 4 would have been the holiday special, the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. The last movie we would have seen was Wakanda Forever. So and then phase 4, of course, would have begun with was it Black Widow?
Gosh, it was so
Was that the
long
first movie?
ago. It was so long
I think
ago.
officially it began with WandaVision, because that was the first thing to come out post Spider-Man Far From Home.
So was Spider-Man Far From Home the end of 3?
Yes. Yeah. That was
I thought
so
Endgame was the end of 3.
no. So Endgame was, I mean, that was the climax, yeah, of phase 3. But then Far From Home was sort of the epilogue to the story we got with
Which
phase
makes
3.
sense. Yeah. So then phase 4 kicked off with WandaVision, and then all of those series as well as the movies that we've seen thus far. And then here we are now for phase 5. And it's already been announced that that phase 5 ends with the 2 movies or one.
No, so
one
phase
of the movies,
5
Secret
phase
Wars.
5 will not have an Avengers movie.
Oh, okay.
Phase 6 is going to have 2. So the first one will be Avengers Kang Dynasty. So we already know that Kang is coming back. I mean, and so this is something they've announced. This is not a spoiler unless you don't pay attention to what happens at Comic-Con. And then after Avengers Kang Dynasty, we'll get our 6th Avengers movie, which they've subtitled Secret Wars.
Right. So we've got a lot going, but obviously we've got multiverse, we've got Kang, and there's a whole lot of that going on. And so from what they've announced so far, of course, we have this Ant-Man movie that's come out, but we also have some Disney series expansions like Loki season 2, and then there's going to be a Captain Marvel 2, right? Marvel family, whatever it's called. And but I think there's a lot of undiscovered country for us, a lot of new characters, a lot of expansion on things. We're going to see the Scrolls, yeah,
Secret Invasion.
So a lot of fun things happening. But do you want to go ahead and do our spoiler alert for the movie?
All right. Yes, that is if you have not seen Quantumania yet, this is your chance to duck out, come back to this point. We'll put the timestamp in the description so that you can know when the spoilers are going to start.
They're about to start.
They're about to start right about now. So
in
fact, go get your ticket, see Quantumania, and then come back and listen to the rest of this, because now we're going to get into some of the good juicy stuff.
I've got to say, man, when I first saw Darren come back, Mordock, what is his name?
MODOK.
So there's this character when we go to Universal Studios in Orlando, in the Fantastic Four Spider-Man area, there's like all of these comic, like you can see characters all on the walls, and they show this character. It looks like it's him, like from and I'd never heard of him. I never knew who that was. So the kids were just like, "That's that guy with the big head."
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And then it turns out to be Darren from the first one, the Scorpion guy.
So yeah, that is very different, I believe, from Marvel Comics.
Okay.
This new version of MODOK. So MODOK is an acronym. It means mental organism designed only for killing.
It's not like picks it up right away. He's just like, got it.
Yeah. So it's like, so so we get Corey Stoll back as Darren Cross, who played Yellow Jacket in the
Yellow
first
Jacket.
Ant-Man
That's
movie.
what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah, Scorpion's one of Spider-Man's villains.
Oh yeah, okay.
All these insects and arachnids. There's
Yeah.
bunch of bugs.
But you thought he was dead in the first one, right? Because
Yeah.
he kind of crumples up. But
Yeah.
it makes sense that he gets down there and he's got like a bigger head.
And all that's left is his head, because that's the last thing that shrinks.
Arms.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you this, and I know I'm jumping towards the end here, but his death scene, like I'm telling you what, like he first there he sits there and says, so we're like, I've seen this as brothers, and Paul Rudd's like, yeah, sure. Of course. And he's like, at least I die an Avenger, and he's like, and he does this thing where he puts his hand on Paul Rudd's face like that. And I'm laughing, right? Yeah. So fast forward, my son, who's 10, who's right beside me, right? And I'm watching the movie. He reaches over and he puts his hand on my face. He goes, at least I died Avenger. and we both like bust out laughing. And of course, the other 10 people in the movie at that point, because the joke was over, are not understanding why we are dying laughing.
Guys, he's dying. That's not funny.
He's like, he puts his little 10-year-old hand on. He goes, at least I died Avenger. It was hilarious. My son.
Yeah, so he is now the MCU version of MODOK. Whether that is like the end all and be all of what MODOK is, I don't know. There was an animated series that came on, I think it was Hulu a couple of years ago. Patton Oswalt was the voice of MODOK. Of course,
Patton Oswalt.
You don't know who Patton Oswalt is?
Of course I do. Who doesn't know? Who is he?
He's the voice of Adult Adam on The Goldbergs. He was Spence on King of Queens.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, you still don't know who he is. All right. So anyway, he was the voice of MODOK.
There we go.
On this cartoon. I actually never saw any of the cartoon. It doesn't actually tie into the MCU at all. So like I said, I don't really know much about his origin in the comics. I just know I'm fairly certain he's not a different version of Yellow Jacket.
Yeah, but it was good. I thought it was well inserted. It wasn't forced to me. I think
I liked having the character there. I was okay with it. The only thing I didn't like, so this was, if I'm gonna complain about the CGI in this movie at all, it's gonna be with his face.
Yeah,
it looked like a bad TikTok filter.
It really did. They didn't do a very good job with it.
No,
I didn't think so either. But it was a little, it was pretty cheesy. I did think that it was cool seeing Bill Murray in it.
Yes,
Bill Murray did a great appearance. And it was a very otherwise forgettable character. Her connection to, fighting against Kang and all that stuff, and
right.
But he, of course, makes himself more than what a forgettable character would be.
Sure.
My favorite line was, "You're like, are you human?" He's like, "In all the ways that matter," and he looks over at her.
Yeah.
I laughed at that. He's so Bill Murray. So it's great.
Yeah. He was Lord Krylar, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously he has a history with Janet. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that could have been a very forgettable character. Because he only has what, like 6 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, it wasn't much, but did you also get the Stormtrooper vibe?
Oh yeah, from what's his name's Kang's soldiers. Yeah,
very, very much a stormtrooper. And then of course the whole city, it was much like a very Star Wars Empire kind of a vibe. I thought it was great. I think the other thing that stood out to me was the part at the very beginning, or not the very beginning, but once they get down there and Scott and his daughter meet the people, all the group of people,
the freedom fighters, the rebels.
I thought that was pretty awesome. I thought that it was hilarious to me. The one who was like asking about all the holes. You have 7 holes, and then Paul Rudd's like, "No, that's right. Yeah, that's right." He's like, takes a minute to think about it.
I was pleasantly surprised to see William Jackson Harper on there, who is Chidi from The Good Place. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Oh, hilarious show. You
Oh,
get like theology's way out there as far
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
like,
Is
afterlife,
that the
but
one with Ted Danson and
yeah, Ted Danson, Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't seen
Fantastic show. It's so funny. 4 seasons, has a beginning, middle, and end. It is a
So
it is a great show.
who is he? Was he the voice of the little blob guy?
No. He was the telepath Quaz.
Oh, that guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised to see him. And yeah, that whole pack of freedom fighters I thought was great. The blob guy, his voice was I can never get his name right. David Desmalchin. I'm butchering his name, but he was in the first two Ant-Man movies. He's the Russian ex-con.
Oh, Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga.
Oh, my kids were so disappointed that they didn't have him or the other guy who does the
Yeah.
great stories. They were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I like him because he
Yeah.
does."
I was gonna say that. So we have those missing faces.
Yeah,
We don't see that trio at all. I mean, I'm not disappointed they weren't there because the
it was
most of
over.
the
It
movie
was
took
done.
place in the quantum realm.
Right.
It wouldn't have made sense for any of them to be there. But
No, and the
I
jokes are
loved Michael
done.
Pena's stories where
It's so funny.
he goes into this long drawn out story and then getting the lip sync with his voice dubbing over all these
Everybody
other
else's.
actors.
I
It's
will
always
say,
funny.
if they had done it, even if they had done it at the beginning or the end of the movie, I don't know that I would have appreciated it, because it's been done. It's been
Right.
done and double done, and so it's good.
It's like
But
at this point, like I remember walking out of the theater and I'm thinking I'm disappointed that they weren't there because they made so much of the
yeah,
comic relief in the first two movies.
right,
But then I was like, you know what? If they had been in it, I'd complain about that too.
right.
So
That's what
it's
I was thinking. Yeah,
there's no way to win there. I was also a little surprised we didn't see um Judy Greer or Bobby Cannavale show
me
up
too. I was
as
too.
Cassie's mom and stepdad. I really thought I didn't think they'd have a big role. Obviously, they're not going to the quantum realm with everybody else, but
Right.
I'm surprised that they did not show up, especially there at the end when they're celebrating Cassie's birthday.
Right. There's that. And then there was also when she went to jail. I mean, you would have thought that, the stepdad would have been, there.
Oh
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
And so that was both of those were very surprising. But I mean, I get it. I mean, and there was a lot to pack in. I was surprised that the movie, and I was pleasantly surprised that the movie was not longer than 2 hours. Because typically we're facing it not being that way, it goes
yeah.
on and on. And I think they did a pretty good job of fitting it into 2 hours. I have to say that Majors, who played King, his timing, his dialogue timing is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, what a hard thing to follow with like Thanos, and to build this up and to be a person who is the way that he is in this movie. It really requires you not to try too hard. You got to be very careful not to force stuff, and let it to kind of grow organically. And I feel like he pulled that off. The
Yeah.
way that he was with Michelle Pfeiffer, the way that his character was, and his resolve about being the conqueror. I mean,
Well,
anyway,
and
he's
hiding all
really
that from
great,
her, like
huh?
hiding all of that from her
Right.
when she's helping him try to figure out how to get his ship to work again. It's she is for her, she's found a friend
Right.
and found, a sense of hope that she can get back home
Right.
without, Hank trying to figure out how to find her.
Right.
And really, I mean, at this point, I guess in the history, they just assumed that Janet was dead when
Right.
she shrunk down and vanished like to the quantum realm. There's no way back.
Right.
And it wasn't until the end of Ant-Man that they realized, when Scott came back, that it is possible to come back from the quantum realm.
Right.
So she's trapped down there thinking there's no way out. And this guy comes along, gives her hope, becomes her friend, and then she gets a glimpse of what's really in his mind, and she sees him for the monster that he really is.
Right.
And what a turnaround. I
Yeah.
mean, for him to go from being this incredibly trustworthy individual to just a horrible genocidal maniac.
Well, yeah. I mean, and you think about like what was really cool about it is anyone who watched Loki and saw him at the end of Loki, and he was kind of in a lunacy state, and for who that variant was, but it was a very soft, reasonable, thoughtful
Mhm.
person, and by no means a threatening person, you
No.
know. So then you come into this movie, you see him at the very beginning, and then you see him as she describes him and as she met him, and again you get that same reasonable friend, trusting person. And then at that point, once she sees who he really is, it's like, oh, here you go. Again, it wasn't forced. It wasn't like, hey, here's your big bad guy, chew on this for a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was something that I could, and I've said this before about movies when they have too much dialogue for things that don't need to happen. I feel like this allowed me a moment to kind of graduate my own thoughts and look at him and go, there he is. Genocidal maniac right there.
Yeah.
Sociopath.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know?
my gosh. And seeing those scenes of, I guess, what would have been that Kang variant's past, and the atrocities he's committed, just those like flashes of who he is, was just incredible.
I'm reminded of, because I'm watching Daredevil with Daphne, and when watching the calm nature, you watch Daredevil, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. So you remember the calm nature of Fisk and how he was with his
With Vanessa.
growing to be, yeah, Vanessa. And so he's got this calm nature. And when he's describing what he does in the city and the way it is to her, and his mindset about, burning it down, killing it even so that it can grow back to what he envisions the greatness of the city being, it makes me think about Kang. I think about this same, megalomaniac kind of Lex Luthor mentality where, it's like, I really am the only one who understands what this city needs, and it's mine to prune and clip and kill and destroy and regrow. And there's no remorse or thought or question. And of course with Kang, it's on a beyond even a universe scale. It's in a
It's a
multiverse
multiversal
scale.
scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's yeah, when he first took the role, I don't know if it was an interview that he gave or that somebody else, like whoever cast him, gave, but they sort of described Kang in light of someone like Alexander the Great, who was, this megalomaniac who had his eyes on world domination.
Right.
And and so that's the kind of mentality we want Kang to have, that he is, it is his, uh to steal a phrase from Loki, he's burdened with glorious purpose,
Yeah.
or whatever, to, this is his birthright to
Yeah.
not only conquer the world but conquer the multiverse. And this, this is just the start of
Right.
his story, and that is crazy to me. I don't know what's next. I think we should get into this, the mid and post credits scenes that we have with this one.
Yeah.
Of course, the mid credit scene, we see what I would assume is called the Council of Kangs. I mean, that feels safe, like a safe. Did they didn't
Safe
call
word.
it? Did they call it that?
No, I don't know if they did, but I do think it's, So if there's anything that I'm skeptical about, it's mainly because maybe in my naivety, I'm like, how are you going to pull this off when you have that many bad guys, that are the same guy? But I mean, it's hard to get a focal point, on that kind of action. So I'm kind of like, how are you going to do this? Because you're attacking all of them. I appreciated the idea of what happened with Scott and Hope when they were at the end of this movie, had all of their variants and it all sucked into one.
Right.
And so I could see how maybe there would be something like that in our future with Kang. But if it's going to be like having the Egyptian one and, having the, Orient or Asian one, I don't, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for me to see where this is going, or even to build on some sort of crescendo without watching something.
Well, see,
I don't know.
and I'm not sure how that works out, because as if you'll recall from the end, from when we saw him at the end of Loki, he's describing the reason why this variant that we saw in Loki, the reason why he prunes the timeline so that there is one sacred timeline, is so there won't be multiple versions of him, because his every variant of him is the reason why there was a multiversal war in the first place.
Well, right.
And he admits that.
Yeah. And they were fighting each other.
Right. And so at this point, if you've got a council of Kangs and they all have the same mentality of, I'm going to take over the multiverse, they got to fight each other at some point. They can't work together.
And they didn't seem like they were doing that here.
No, no. At this point, it looks like they're gathering for some cause, some purpose, informational, because this council they're the ones who banished Kang that we saw throughout the throughout Quantumania. They're the ones who banished him, exiled him to the quantum realm, so that he would not be a threat to them.
Which I don't know that we can really consider that he is dead, because the truth, I mean, first of all, of course, you have Scott being like, is he dead? Of course you have that. But the other side of it too, if they shrunk both him and the device down to the same scale, even at a much smaller scale, is it not still usable? I mean, I just wonder. I mean, the whole issue with the power source was it was too big, right? And it was exploded out. And so you're trying to get it back to its right size to fit into the ship. But if he was brought down and he was shrunk with the device all the way down, could he not still be alive?
I don't know. So during that mid-credit scene, when those three Kangs were talking, it sounds like they are certain that the exiled Kang was killed. Okay. So I would say if anyone knows, Kang knows. Yeah. And so I would say that we can confidently say that the Kang that we knew in Quantumania is gone.
So we got two Kangs gone, but now we're opened up to a whole bunch of more Kangs.
Right. So now we understand the real threat that Kang, can become to our heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
So
did you catch the part where Kang and Quantumania had said, Avengers, yes, I've fought Avengers. Yeah. Is that the one with the hammer? You know what I mean?
Yeah, are you the one with the hammer?
Fought and killed other multiverse versions of the Avengers. Did
right.
you catch that?
Yeah. I mean, he specifically asked Scott, have I killed you before?
Right.
Yeah. Like right. Scott would know. I mean, he's obviously, you haven't killed him before because he's from a universe where you haven't been yet.
Right. Very interesting, that kind of dialogue.
That, obviously this is a Kang who has been to other timelines, other realities where he did fight the Avengers and win.
Yeah. What did you think about the second post-credit scene for Loki?
So that felt like a commercial for season 2 of Loki.
Of course.
Which I'm okay with. Uh, I'm see, I feel like that's what the purpose of these post credits scenes should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not angry if you give us a post credit scene or a mid credit scene that's just like a tacked on. This will be funny, kind of like the shawarma thing, or the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming, where Captain America is talking and said, "So here we are. You're at the end, and it may not have turned out the way you wanted. Maybe you're a little disappointed because you waited for something for so long, and now you're not getting it."
The best one was after Avengers when they're eating the food. When they're eating the food in the
Yeah, the
restaurant.
shawarma.
Yeah, that's the best one. I
Yeah,
love that.
so I mean, I'm not mad at it when it does that, but I think the purpose of the post credit scene should really be, this is what's coming. Like
Yeah.
this is what you can expect to happen. Maybe not in the next movie or show that's coming,
But
but
down the line.
down the line, this is what
Yeah.
you're gonna see this. And so I'm I'm glad that this movie, I feel like Quantumania stands alone. It is a good, is a well told story from beginning, middle to end, and it did not feel like a 2 hour commercial for Secret Invasion or Kang
No.
Dynasty or anything that's coming next.
Yeah, I think it was a theatrical introduction, and so if you say that Loki was a series introduction to Kang, but again, you don't have to see Loki to be able to continue watching these movies, and you really don't necessarily need to see Quantumania. Although I think it's good for anybody to see them, but I
Right.
I do think they're doing like they did with the Infinity Stones. They're doing these little seeds, you know, so that
Right.
we can put it together, as we
and
come
that's
in
what they need to
advance.
do. That and again, like you pointed this out at the beginning, of people who watch these movies and are complaining that you're not getting that epic experience like you did with Endgame or with Infinity War. And it's like, well, it took them 10 years to build up to Endgame and
Yeah,
Infinity War.
yeah.
And
We didn't know,
there have got to be the building blocks first.
Yeah,
And you have to remember that you enjoyed those original movies.
right,
Just, now, just because you've experienced Endgame does not mean you're going to get an Endgame every time you go see a Marvel movie.
right.
And I don't get why people aren't okay with that. I think that's why so many people complained about so many of the things we got out of Phase 4. I
Right.
found Phase 4 to be perfectly fine. It was
I enjoyed it.
entertaining.
Yeah,
I can't say there's a single movie or TV show that I absolutely did not like. I
yeah,
enjoyed
yeah.
every bit of it.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
and I like what they're doing, that they're able to expand the Marvel universe in such a way that they can experiment with different genres. And just because they make She-Hulk, which is obviously a comedy, that may not be your cup of tea. So wait
Yeah.
around, and Secret
Yeah,
Invasion will
there's
come along.
something for everyone. And
Right.
the original phases kind of did that as well, because you look at something like Captain America, the first Avenger, and it definitely dealt far more with or even just any of the Captain America movies. It's got a politics war kind of a government feel to it, as
Yeah.
opposed to Thor. Thor is very much ethereal.
Pure like high fantasy.
Yeah, high fantasy. And you've got, Iron Man, which is tech.
Uh-huh.
It's all tech. And now we expand and we've got like Guardians of the Galaxy and that kind of humor. You've got Ant-Man and that kind of humor. And I agree, man. I think that you've got so many different genres and they've got to do that to survive with it. And if you're
Yeah.
an enthusiast, you can watch them all and appreciate, every bit of it. But if you're got a certain type that you like more, well, that's okay. You know?
Yeah. They're trying to design these things so that, of course they want everybody to watch every bit of it, but they're designing it in a way so that you don't necessarily have to see every single thing to understand what's going on and to enjoy, you know, just because, if I hadn't seen Black Widow or Thor Love and Thunder, but I went to see Quantumania, I wouldn't have been lost.
No, you wouldn't be lost. No,
It wouldn't
no.
have mattered. So
One of the things that
um
I appreciate about the movies is that they also educate our society on key points that are relevant to today. I feel like both you know, a lot of these movies that have come out of phase 4 have had to do with grief, you know, and you're talking about, you know, just looking at Far From Home, and you look at Wakanda Forever, and you look at Thor Love and Thunder. I mean, there's the processing of grief. And that's been great, you know, for how they do it. I also think that, you know, there's been plenty of things with the humor that they've done to be able to expand where you can be a character and you can laugh at yourself. You know, Paul Rudd joking about his book, and they'd be like, "Oh, have you mentioned your book?" You know, "Oh, I didn't know you wrote a book.
You wrote a
should write
book?
a book on that." You know, you know, and they make fun of themselves in a great way. And so, yeah, I'm an enthusiast, as you know. I'm gonna love them all. I haven't found one that I can't find something that I don't like out of it.
All right, let's talk about some speculation. What's coming? What do we see happening in the future? So I think it's a safe bet that we'll see Kang in season 2 of Loki. I'm pretty
Yeah,
much that's a gimme.
yeah.
And I think it's likely we'll see several variants of Kang. Not just this one that we saw in the post credits, but I think we'll see multiple versions.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how all of that um plays its part as we move forward. And I'm curious. I haven't seen, you know, what the cast list looks like, but I know that Short Round from Temple of Doom is going to be in Loki season 2 as well.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad to see him back reintroduced into the cinema world, or at least in acting. I do think that I'm anticipating that Kang will be treated as a toxic element in all different forms of society. What I believe is being put before me is the idea that there is a mentality, there is a person, a type of person, a variant, a way, whether it's a Hitler-esque way in society, and it must be stopped. It must be stopped in all of its many ways, shapes, or forms. I would imagine that's kind of part of what's being fed to us. And if we're having a whole bunch of different variants of Kang, I think that that's what we're going to see. We're going to see the toxic nature of what he's doing and manipulating and affecting and coercing, you know, in all the different ways that he is. I think Loki will reveal a bit more of that. What's interesting about the other movies is obviously this is all going to come to a head. And so as we're looking at movies like The Secret Invasion or show, sorry, Secret Invasion, is it show or movie? Show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you know, what's slated? We got Guardians of the Galaxy 3, you
Right.
know, and you know, there's some of this stuff. I don't know about you, but I had thought that maybe Paul Rudd was out. I thought that Ant-Man was going to die. They kind of put it before us like that.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that there were no major deaths in this
Yeah, except
movie.
for the bottlehead guy. That was it.
Um, that was not a major death. He was barely in the movie.
He still had a very powerful move.
Doesn't
No,
mean it was a
but him
powerful
and
character.
Darren, you know, that was really it. I was surprised at the death count, but I mean, and even you look at Loki, you know, you think characters are dead, you know, and then they're really not dead,
They
you
just
know.
show up at the end
So
of time.
yeah, exactly. So but um I don't know. Well, tell me more. What are the ones you know that are coming? The movies that are coming.
All right, so I was gonna say this. It feels like Marvel Studios is slowing things down a little bit. I do know when Feige introduced the timeline for Phase 5 and 6, you know, part of what they want to go for at this point is quality over quantity, which seemed to be the opposite with Phase 4. I think they got a lot of criticism for putting too much out too quickly.
Right.
And so I think they're slowing things down. I think they had more on the slate for this year as far as Disney Plus series go, but I think right now the only shows that we're guaranteed for 2023 are Secret Invasion and Loki. I think it's likely we'll get another season of What If before the end of the year, and I think it's
So
likely
good.
that we'll get maybe the Agatha Coven of Chaos or whatever.
Yeah.
Depends on how quickly they can get that filmed. I don't know. But yeah, as far as movies go, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and then the Captain Marvel sequel coming up in November, I think.
Is that it?
And that's it for this year. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
So
gonna say, so because we've kind of progressed a lot with all the different shows that have come out. So we only got like 5 or 6 things that are slated that we know of,
right. And
other than of
so
course the last 2 movies.
um so yeah, I think they're slowing things down. I think that's on purpose. And I hope that that does lead to like we say, quality over quantity. Or I mean, the question has to be asked, could the market just be oversaturated with superhero content? I mean, because it seems like we're getting between Marvel and DC and even the occasional other outlet that may come out like a Hellboy or something, it's we're getting something super heroic all the time.
Right.
I mean, it just seems like, is it too much?
Right.
Personally, I don't care. Give it to
I mean,
me every
that's you
day.
and me. I
Keep
mean,
them coming.
we would keep going.
I don't want this superhero train to slow down until I get another decent Superman movie. After that, I don't care. But
Yeah.
the question has to be asked, because these things do happen, that there are certain cycles in Hollywood with the way that movies are made, and the way that stories are told. There's nothing original. There never has been. I mean, everything's a variation of certain different plot elements, but it's just it's I'm enjoy the ride while we got it. That's all I'm saying.
I wonder though, I don't know that there's always been the preoccupation with the Superman, you know what I mean? And in whatever way, shape, or form that is. The ability to fly, the ability to have powers beyond, the ability to read minds, the ability to have telekinetic power, the ability to have things beyond our microcosm. I feel like these are honestly ongoing things. And of course, you'll have the occasional plague by Camus, where everybody dies and it sucks. I mean, you just have stuff like that in society and in literature and in movies that's just going to happen. And sometimes that's healthy. Sometimes it's healthy to have a little dose of reality. But I think by and large, since mythology, I mean, and even before, we've always been preoccupied with being beyond what we are, and I think so long as we're having not necessarily original content, because like you said, it's all, nothing's new under the sun. If we're having the quality, if they truly do follow that, we could have a lot to look forward to. We'll see.
Do you think we
We
could
trust ourselves in Feige.
do you think we'll get another Ant-Man sequel? Do you think there'll be another solo movie for Ant-Man, or is this it for him? Do you think the rest of his story will be told in Avengers movies?
I would like to think that this was the end. I really think that it's probably, in my opinion, not wise to have more than 3 for anybody. But I mean, it just depends if somebody latches on. I mean, look at the Iron Man movies. You're just like, yeah, 3.
Well, that was 3, and then but we got 4 Thor movies. We're gonna get another Captain America movie.
Well, right. But again, you look at that stuff and you're changing characters, right? I mean, you're changing characters for Captain America. Thor is hard because you look at Dark World and it's like, ugh,
Does that really count?
does it have to count? And Love and Thunder was not necessarily completely a Thor movie, as it had to do with handling Jane. So it doesn't feel like a conclusion. And I'm definitely not looking forward to seeing Russell Crowe as Zeus again. I really wish that would never happen. But I think that that could tie him off.
I don't
I
think
don't
we
know.
would. I don't think we'll see him come back as Zeus, but we'll definitely see.
The son,
We'll see Hercules for
which
sure.
is fine for me because isn't that the actor who's from Ted Lasso?
Yeah,
Yeah, I like him. He's
Roy
good.
Kent.
I could listen to him talk all the time.
Oi,
Oi. Yeah.
leave Nate alone.
Oh, I'm so excited about that new season coming out. Oh man.
All
Well, I
right,
think we
so
covered it good.
no,
So,
wait.
well, what you got?
Questions left unanswered.
Please.
Do you have any questions left unanswered after the trilogy of Ant-Man movies that have come and gone now? I've got one.
Let me think real quick. Share your one. Let me think what you're talking.
I still want to know who Walton Goggins was working for in the last movie in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Because he was obviously working for somebody trying to get his hands on Pym's laboratory, but we never found out who his buyer was.
Oh,
And
it
I want to
wouldn't
know who that
surprise
was.
me if that was Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Ooh, good call.
I'll bet it's Valentine.
Oh, Val. Okay. I'll go along with that. If they reveal that, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because we've got a whole thing we've got to deal with. I'm okay with a Captain America movie where we can flush her out and get more. I feel like I've been teased a little bit about her role. Now, how you get her and their world somehow connected to this Kang thing is beyond me. I don't know how you do that.
I think we'll get more of her in the Thunderbolts, more
Yeah,
than we'll get her in New World Order. I mean, I think they'll lead into each other, yeah, and
sure.
I think I'm sure she'll play a role in some way. But I think her biggest role to date, I think, will be in Thunderbolts because she's the one who's cobbling that team together.
Do you know if there's one character that I would love to come back? It would be Black Widow. For her to come back, for Nat to come back, would be really cool for me. Even if it's in the multiverse situation where she plops in just like she did in What If. That would be. I don't want her to be dead. I don't like it. But
it should have been Hawkeye.
Yeah, it should have been. Especially it should have been Hawkeye because of the haircut. That alone, was enough for him to have.
I thought the haircut was pretty cool. I'm thinking about doing that to my hair. All right, you ready for trivia?
Let's do trivia.
And then we are wrapping this up, man. It was a good discussion. Good discussion about Quantumania. It was a good movie.
Yeah.
All right. As of this film's release, how many movies have hit the big screen in the MCU, and how does that number relate to Scott Lang's former employer?
$36 flavors.
31 flavors. Baskin Robbins. 31.
Oh,
that was the hint, though. Baskin Robbins.
They don't mess around. Baskin Robbins don't mess around.
Baskin Robbins always knows. All right, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the next film due to hit the big screen for the MCU. One more movie is scheduled to be released this year. What is its title?
Marvel. I can't remember what. All right, hold on. There's Miss Marvel.
We have established that it's the Captain Marvel sequel.
Yes, but I'm trying to remember. So it's so you got Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel. It's like the Marvels.
That is exactly it.
Oh,
the
good.
Marvels.
Woo! The Marvels.
All right. The first time we saw Jonathan Majors in the MCU was in the season finale of Loki. However, we are not introduced to him as Kang, but as who? Character was always referred to as a title rather than a name.
Right. The John.
John. That's a name.
Oh man, let's see. It was something like Oh, I've been playing Fallen Order, so I want to say like the Inquisitor, but it's not that. It's like uh I can't remember. Go ahead, what you got?
He Who Remains.
He who remains, he who must not be named. He who remains.
You know who. I mentioned it earlier, but what does MODOK stand for?
Kill. De-
Kill.
something. Master of defense to defensive kill. The
So close. You're so close. You're gonna kick yourself. Mental
Master
organism designed only for killing.
mental organism. Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Last question. Not really a question, but I'm gonna 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon you. Paul Rudd to Kevin Bacon. And if you do it right, you can do it in 2 connections.
Paul Rudd to Kevin Bacon?
Uh-huh.
Am I going Clueless?
I mean, if you want to, that's not going to get you 2 connections, but you do whatever you want, man. As long as you can get it in 6, I'll give you the point.
All right. So if I go Paul Rudd to Alicia Silverstone and Clueless. Alicia Silverstone to Carrie Ellis and Crush. Carrie Ellis to oh man. Go Alicia Silverstone to come on, Kevin Bacon.
Where you at, man?
Where you at, Kevin Bacon?
Have you even done any movies? Come on.
For the last question, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. All right. Let me think here. Okay, so I've got and that, and then him to man, I don't think I can do it in 6. Just thinking at it. All right.
You
Feel
can
the
do it in 2
pressure of
movies
not
that both
wasting.
came out in the 21st century.
Both came out in the 21st century?
Yeah. within the
Paul
last
Rudd.
within the last 23 years, you can do it with 2 movies. Really, within the last 15
Did
years.
you just know this? Like you just knew?
Yeah.
Or did you look it up? You just knew it.
Yeah. I had to think about it, but yeah.
It's the Paul Rudd, like trying to think of like Paul Rudd. And I can't use like the holiday special, right?
Right now.
Oh well.
Using films only, no TV shows, no specials.
But
Major
it's
motion
gonna
pictures.
be in this time period. So Kevin Bacon, are you going to Marvel movies? Are you saying Kevin Bacon in First Class?
No.
What are you using Kevin Bacon for in the last 23 years?
You know, he's been in other movies than X-Men First Class.
I have
That wasn't his only movie that he did in the last 20 years. He's been busy. He's done things.
I've not watched much that he's done outside of that movie in the last 23 years.
I mean, for me, his film catalog is Footloose, Tremors, and X-Men First Class. That's it.
That's actually pretty true. That is, and then what's that one with where he and that guy were in Wild Things, that movie with Nev Campbell. And
yeah,
don't forget about that one.
Him and Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. The River Wild. I mean, you know,
Oh, The River Wild.
you got
I
Meryl
love
Streep
The
in that
River
one.
Wild. That was a good one.
And don't forget about A Few Good Men. I mean, dude.
Of course, you've always got A Few Good Men. That's true. But I don't really think of him when I think of A Few Good Men, but I haven't watched it in a long time.
He's the prosecuting attorney. He's very important.
I didn't really, I know, but it's more focused on.
All right. Well, do you want the two step?
Yeah, give me the two step.
Paul Rudd to Steve Carell in any number of movies. Anchorman,
Right,
2, Dinner for Schmucks, 40-Year-Old Virgin. All right.
Yeah.
So you got Paul Rudd to Steve Carell.
Yeah.
To Kevin Bacon in Crazy Stupid Love.
I don't think I ever watched Crazy Stupid Love.
Oh, dude, you have got to watch Crazy Stupid Love.
Would I like Crazy Stupid Love?
You and your wife need to watch Crazy Stupid Love, and you need to watch it just to get to the point at like maybe 15 minutes before the end of the movie. There is this scene where everything in the movie culminates in the backyard of the house, and it is the greatest scene in cinematic history. I tell you not.
Crazy Stupid Love.
Crazy Stupid Love.
Okay.
All Steve Carell, Julianne Moore, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone.
I don't usually like Ryan Gosling.
It is a fantastic movie. I can't believe you haven't seen it. I can't believe your wife hasn't made you watch it. It will surprise me if she hasn't seen it.
You have tantalized. No, she hasn't seen it. I don't think.
Well, you need to find out. And if you haven't seen it, watch it together. I promise you, when you get to that scene, you will text me and you will be like, dude, you're right. This is the greatest scene on film ever recorded.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Seriously, such a great movie. Audience, if you agree with me, get on here, leave comments, 5 stars. Crazy Stupid Love, one of the greatest rom-coms in history. It really is. It's so good.
Love. And Quantumania.
Not a rom-com, but very good. Very good movie. Yeah, if you have gotten a chance to see Quantumania, let us know what you think. What do you think of Kang? What do you think of Jonathan Majors as this conquering bad guy? I'm looking forward to seeing him in Creed 3 here in a couple of weeks. Playing, I don't know if you call him the villain, but he is certainly the antagonist of the movie, fighting against Michael B. Jordan's Adonis Creed. Looking forward to that. If you have seen Lovecraft Country, which was on HBO a couple of years ago, he was the main character in that. Jonathan Majors, fantastic actor. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of him as Kang. But yeah, let us know what you think. Leave some comments all over the place. Find us on the social media. Landon, any final thoughts before we depart?
Have a great week.
Hey, you too. Enjoy your whatever you're doing, and have a great whatever it is wherever you are.
There you go. Bye-bye.